Good evening, everyone. Let's proceed with the lecture 5, Citizenship and Gender. Historically, citizenship meant membership to a political community, and this membership it provided specific rights and duties. Classical theorists like Aristotle, he viewed citizenship as active participation in public life, whereas modern liberal democracies they define citizenship via legal status, political rights, and civic responsibilities. Now, proceeding on to the contemporary debates, citizenship is increasingly contested. There are many issues, such as the issue of statelessness, like that of Rohingya people, Kurds, Basque. So these people they do not have any state. और अगर स्टेट नहीं है तो इनको जो भी पोलिटिकल राइट्स हैं दे आर नॉट गिवन देन इफ राइट्स आर नॉट गिवन then they are not protected, they are unsafe, fair, उसके बाद no welfare benefits. So this issue is emerging. Now the same issue is about refugee rights. So the refugee can be the political refugees or the emerging issue of climate refugees. So political refugees are those people who are fleeing their country because of political persecution. So Rohingya एक example है. And as of climate refugees, these are people who are fleeing emerging climate deluges. So जितने भी coastal countries हैं, Pacific Island countries हैं, oceanic countries हैं, then these countries where the land is sinking, the coast are sinking, or उनके पास they have nowhere to go. So the here on the international radar, they are the emerging population who are increasingly seeking a new definition of citizenship. Now, the third issue is about gender based exclusions. So, first, women and feminist based right, ये issue पहले से ही था. But now, the fluid identities and their stake in active life. So, fluid identities such as LGBTQ community. Now, LGBTQ, they first because they are homo sapiens and because they belong to a country they have right for political equality, but because the mainstream population still control the narrative, and the mainstream they are still deeply stuck in their own conservatism, in their own stereotypes, and these things they prevent these people from getting equal rights. So ये नया issue. And then identity politics. So identity politics is the politics based on a certain identity. So इन सब में आप सब क्लब कर सकते हैं. Like women, they have their own identity and they are seeking rights because they are discriminated based on this identity. LGBTQ, LGBTQ, ये है. Then tribal people, ethnic minorities, religious and linguistic minorities, and ये फिर कितने भी हो सकते हैं. अफ्रीकन अमेरिकन हो सकते हैं इन यूएसए, इंडियन हो सकते हैं इन यूएसए. So these identity politics they are demanding rights. They are demanding a remake of the idea of citizenship that is more inclusive and dynamic. Now, in India, the debate on Citizenship Amendment Act it highlight evolving nature of citizenship in pluralistic society. And most of you are aware about this that this amendment it critically targeted a particular minority. So here the debate rages on about the status of minority in plural society, in diverse society. Now I'll look on the concept of citizenship. So it refers to formal legal relationship between an individual and the state. So state here means government, and this political relationship, this political agreement, it grants individuals certain rights and duties. This idea it originated from ancient Greco-Roman Empire, and during that time only free men had full political rights. Now the key aspects of citizenship: first, legal membership of a political community. Then rights are given, political rights such as right to vote. Then civic rights such as freedom of speech. Then there are responsibilities such as to obey law and pay taxes. Now, on the platform of political participation, access to decision-making process is also given, and this can take two forms. If it is direct democracy, then people can take part in decision-making directly. But if it is indirect democracy, then can take people can access decision-making via their representatives. And finally, identity, that by accessing to this political agreement, people gets a sense of belonging to a nation or a community. The important thinker associated with the idea of citizenship. First, T.H. Marshall, who distinguished citizenship into three elements. First, civil rights, that is, rights that are given to people on individual basis. These are individual freedom and political property rights, etc. Then political rights, such as participation in politics via voting, via contesting for public office, and then social rights, such as getting welfare benefits, getting the benefits of various social services such as education, health, etc. And finally, in the words of Aristotle, humans are political animals, which means humans like to live in social groups. And because of this need and because of this tendency towards sociality, this citizenship it is required, and citizenship is an agreement that arranges or facilitated active participation of people in civic life. Now, the modern notions of citizenship: first, liberal view that emphasizes individual rights. Then another is communitarian view that focuses on duties and community value. And third one is global citizenship. It is the idea that individuals are responsible towards global commons. Global commons mean everything that transcend national boundary and equally affect everyone. So global commons, the examples are climate change, pandemic, space, biodiversity, then oceans, marine life. So all these are common resources that belong to everyone and equally affect everyone. Second is evolution of citizenship. So during classical time, during Greco-Roman time, this citizenship was limited to elite males. Elite males means the males that belong to ruling society, to aristocrats, to oligarchs, to ministers, to important positions that are held by people. And mostly these rights were coveted by males. Then the idea of modern citizenship after the period of Renaissance, it based on the idea of equality and universally. Then the post-colonial view of citizenship, it focus on inclusive citizenship, especially when people rose against such colonial yokes. People rose against the colonial operation. This brought people together. This united front. It needed an inclusive front, inclusivity, and the citizenship that was granted after the colonial the Europeans left their country. They made their nations based on this inclusive citizenship. India and most of the African nations, example of this. And finally, the evolution of the concept of citizenship in globalization era. So here the idea of dual citizenship is flouted, which means everyone belongs to not only his country but the global landscape as well, because the motion it has become fluid, everybody is moving, and because of that the idea of citizenship based on residence it has completely dismantled, क्योंकि आज कोई यहाँ रुक रहा है, कल वहाँ रुक रहा है, then people are moving across the nations for various purposes, for recreation, for jobs, for medical and health purposes. So इस कारण भी जो जो residence का criteria है it is not there. So this With this frequent movement, it has sparked debate on dual citizenship. Then, the same basis, it also generated discussions on transnational rights, which means अगर लोग यहाँ से वहाँ if they are frequently moving, then उनको जो benefit, जो minimal political benefit अपनी countries में मिल रहा है, they should be available in other countries as well. So this discussion is about transnational rights. Then finally the migration challenges, कि अगर एक कंट्री से दूसरी कंट्री में जा रहे हैं then there are various challenges. First, you bring some challenges, एक pandemic वाला आप देख सकते हैं. Then they will be some backlash by the native population क्योंकि उनको आपका आना पसंद नहीं होगा. Then issue of violence against these people. So migration challenges, they all offer new definitions in globalization era. Now the citizenship in Indian context. So Indian constitution has provided for the provisions in part 2nd from article 5 to 11. Indian citizenship is secular and inclusive. Secular means there's you are free to profess your own religion, you are free to practice your own religion, and state will not interfere in religious practices as long as they are not harmful. Then inclusive means all sections of people, different, all diversity, all different shades of opinion will be integrated in the in citizenship. And Indian constitution, it has provided the policy of no discrimination based on religion, caste, gender, etc. Now the challenges, first the CEA NRC debate. So as I've said, this is about targeting a particular minority. So here the question is about survival of various minority in majoritarian country. Then the issue of migration is there. Migration and refugee crisis both are related, but the migration may be because of jobs. So if people are migrating from one state to another, then they are displacing the native population. So एक तो ये political backlash है, वो आपने बहुत सारे स्टेट में देखा होगा that they started their own just soil policy, सन ऑफ सॉइल पॉलिसी की. वहाँ पे जो मेजर जॉब्स हैं वो वहीं के रेजिडेंट्स, वहीं के नेटिव्स को दी जाएगी. देन रिफ्यूजी क्राइसिस. सो आसपास अगर कोई पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस है या क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से इफ़ पीपल आर फ्लीइंग देयर प्लेस एंड सीकिंग रिफ्यूजी स्टेटस हियर, then it comes up with two issues. First, there is a moral dilemma कि if somebody is asking protection लेकिन हम खुद ही इतने ज़्यादा पॉपुलस हैं, वी आर द नंबर वन पॉपुलस कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड, सो हमारे रिसोर्सेज जो हैं वो भी कम हैं. ऐसे में और लोग जो है उनको कैसे अकोमोडेट करेंगे. सो हियर दिस refugee crisis is there. Now, coupled with caste and gender discrimination, it presents new kind of challenges in the idea of citizenship. Now, the next, the relationship between gender and citizenship. So, the relationship between gender and citizenship has always been tricky. Historically, women, transgender, and marginalized gender groups, they have had faced exclusion from full citizenship right. Now, key points here that women and citizenship. First, women have struggled long for getting voting rights. इंडिया में तो उनको हाथों हाथ 1947 में पॉलिटिकल राइट्स मिल गए, बट बाकी कंट्रीज़ के एग्जांपल देखें तो ऐसे यूएस जो है इट गॉट इंडिपेंडेंट इन 18th सेंचुरी, बट जो वीमेन को जो इक्वल राइट्स हैं, सिटीजनशिप राइट्स हैं, वो उनको 1920s में ही मिले आफ्टर द सफ्रेगेट मूवमेंट्स. फिर उनके बाद वीमेन, they are not treated equally in various social and political indicators such as education properly नहीं है, property rights नहीं दिए जाते. इंडिया में भी उनको बहुत लेट मिले हैं, especially after judgment that daughters have equal stake in the property of father. Then bodily autonomy, that it is their body, so no judgment should be imposed on them. Now, the feminist critic, so thinkers like Carol Bateman, via her work The Sexual Contract, she argued that citizenship has traditionally been male centric, with women treated as dependent. So, this idea echoes the same classical patriarchal lines. Now, the issue of intersectionality, which has a truly um debilitating dimension. So, intersectionality means ये जो dimension है, especially जो disability है, if they intersect with other disabilities, other social disabilities. So, if you are women from a lower caste, from a poor background, from an African or Asian race, and then from a tribal background. So you can see here that these disabilities, they are like multiple wounds, and all these disabilities, they deepen exclusion. कि जितना जितने ज़्यादा ये disabilities intersect होती जाएगी, उतना ही ज़्यादा exclusion मेन स्ट्रीम पोलिटिकल राइट से उतना ही exclusion होता जाएगा. Now, Indian perspective, first the constitutional provision. So India has granted equality, or that is equality before law and equal protection from law under Article 14. Then Article 15 and 16, they prohibit discrimination on the basis of various social indicator, on the basis of religion, race, caste, gender. Then political rights, they have been equally applicable. Article 326, that is the right to participate in election. Now, reservation and representation. So, 33% reservation for women in Panchayati Raj institution. Some state they have increased this to 50%. Now, the contemporary debates. First one, women's safety and rights. So, even after promulgation of Vishaka Guideline and She Act, the issue of women's safety is still in the front line. Now, the second issue is about the recognition of rights of LGBTQ community. So even after Nalsa judgment, the mainstream polity does not recognize them, and जब तक recognize political recognition नहीं मिलेगा, then political equality cannot be ensured. Then the triple talaq verdict. So this issue is, it is a complicated issue wherein uh, religious and social practice, religious and social practice, it has to be tested on the anvil of constitutionality. So our constitution, it has made it clear from the very beginning that your religious practices are your affairs, it's your business, but these practices should not be harmful, should not be harmful to the members who belong to these religious community. So every religious practice, it must stand true, it must testify against the constitutionality. So the triple talaq verdict, it it treated the same line. Muslim women, they have been going through this issue for a long time कि उनके हस्बैंड जो है कभी भी उनको 3 बार तलाक बोल के डिवोर्स दे सकते हैं. Now, this issue is a political one, because issues such as maintenance, inheritance, divorce, all these issues, they come under legal domain. Now you cannot leave anybody just like that. There is a due process of law which needs to be followed. And even if this process is swift, but some things will be looked here, such as the angle of alimony, and ultimately it is about justice. And this practice, it is unjust practice. Now, the contemporary issues in citizenship and gender. First, global refugee crisis, the crisis of statelessness and citizenship denial. So एक रोहिंग्या की बात हमने की थी. रोहिंग्या, the Kurds, Bas, the Roma people. So all these are example of people who have been denied citizenship by their own country. Now, these people are non existent, even if they are existing in person, but politically they are not non existent. So, this referentiality, it does not give them any rights. They are not safe. They are not giving any due benefits. They are not protected, and they are frequently persecuted. So this issue is emerging in the global landscape, and this coupled with the frequent war जो गाज़ा में चल रहा है, इसराइल पैलेस्टाइन, so वहाँ भी बहुत सारे जो लोग हैं, they are reeling with this question whether they belong to any state. Then the second issue is about digital citizenship. So आजकल हर कोई social media पे है. The virtual world is there, and the virtual world is still a world in itself. But this is unregulated world. The world which is open, the world which is free for violations, data privacy, the issue of data privacy. Now, if your data is stolen, do you have any recourse? कैसे यहाँ पे जस्टिस कैसे मिलेगा? बिकॉज रियल वर्ल्ड में व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट रियल वर्ल्ड, कोई भी अगर वायलेशन होता है देन वी सीक recourses, वी सी जस्टिस वाया लीगल इंस्टीट्यूशन. बट व्हाट अबाउट दिस डिजिटल डोमेन? यहाँ पे अगर जो डेटा के साथ कोई भी वायलेशन होता है, डेटा प्रिवेसी, सो फ्रॉम वेयर यू आर गेटिंग जस्टिस? देन द इशू अबाउट ऑनलाइन राइट्स, क्योंकि अगर वर्चुअल वर्ल्ड है एंड दिस वर्ल्ड इज existing, even if it is not real, but still millions of people, they are living in it day and night. In that case, there will be some regulation. There is need for some regulations. So if everybody is existing in this world, so what are your online right? Just as in real world you have some right, some fundamental right which cannot be taken away, in the same way virtual world में भी online rights होने चाहिए. Then इसी के साथ there comes the question of cyber harassment. So अगर किसी भी तरह से अगर आप इस virtual world में there are violations of your rights, violations of your privacy via deepfake, कोई bully कर रहा है, cyber bullying, cyber harassment, if they are tampering with your personal data. So यहाँ पे recourses क्या available है? So digital citizenship is another emerging platform here, or another emerging question here. And another contemporary global issue is about transgender rights. So transgender, who are known by this acronym LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and then all new kinds of ascribed identity. These identities are fluid. First, if you indulge in us versus them debate, this debate will take us nowhere. As far as the molecular genetics is concerned, all of us are Homo sapiens, and these people are not queer persons or queer in any sense. They have their identity, and such people have existed, such identities have existed. I am not going to blame these people for their identities. What I'm trying to say is that such fluidity has always existed, but it was the mainstream order, the order thing, that tried to paint things in binaries as white and black. In simpler term, what I'm trying to say that कि पहले जो मेन स्ट्रीम सोसाइटी है, दे ट्राई टू कीप दिस थिंग सिंपल, बट these identities, they are very fluid. Even the people themselves, they are not aware whether they belong to this identity or that. Then nobody is sure who belongs to which identity. Even many people from mainstream, they do have some sections of or some iota of this fluidity in their blood. Now by blood I don't mean it's about genetics. What I mean is that this thing, this fluidity in identity, it has always been part of our life. Now, the mainstream, because of its preoccupation with order, it does not recognize them. And if you do not recognize them, first, you are losing a real talent here. I don't mean that other people, the mainstream people, are not talented. What I'm saying that we should not lose this talent. We should not just let it go just because they have an identity that ranges a spectrum. They have their own life. They can be employed meaningfully in various occupations, and the identity is just one part of their life. The sexuality is just one minor part of our life. Mainstream के लिए भी यही एक बहुत minor part होता है. Other than that, our potential, the things we can do, the activities, the economic, social, political, psychological, professional, all our potential, it need to be harnessed. And we should not let these people waste their talent. They can be they can be allowed to develop their potential, and for that they need legal recognition, which is not available. Answer आपको बता दिया. The mainstream occupation with order thing, and अगर वो नहीं मिलेगा, then they will grapple with these issues such as rights to healthcare, to education, to employment. Now, the feminist movement. So first, Me Too movement. सबको पता ही है. The movement which can be clubbed as grievances against sexual harassment. So दुनिया भर में बहुत सारे जो महिलाएं हैं, they spoke against it. So this is another issue that is emerging on the landscape, that many women, they are openly speaking against their the issue of their sexual grievances, their sexual harassment. Now, the another side of feminist movement is that they are seeking parity everywhere, seeking parity in legal recognition, seeking parity in political terms. They seek representation in politics. They strive towards equal pay, equal respect, and equal opportunities. So ये भी एक नया issue है. Then let's proceed towards the next topic, democracy. Now, democracy is the rule of people. So this idea, it has emerged after people had seen that uh, if they are ruled by other people, so this other thing, it can be a monarch, the invaders, the foreign people, and various groups such as oligarchs, capitalists, communists, and dictators. So all these others, they cannot address their grievances. They cannot provide them justice, and they cannot make any meaningful changes to their life. So there came a time when people finally getting rid of all these others, take on the baton in their own hand. This transition, it took the form of democracy, where people, they became their own ruler. That they believe that instead of relying on others to provide them the required justice, they should trust on themselves, and they should rule on themselves. So, rooted in the idea of rule by the people, democracy ensures participation, accountability, and protection of fundamental rights. Participation means, पहले जब जो जितने भी others आपको समझाए हैं, people were not engaged in the decision making. Now, अब when people, they started expressing their opinion, they expressing their grievances. So फिर उनके जो issues हैं, they want them addressed. लेकिन जो दूसरा है, others, they are not addressing, they are not looking at this issue, and sometimes this takes the form of direct discrimination, especially the issue of majority versus minority. For SMA, the only thing that can address their issues is their direct participation. So, democracy is the way which ensures their participation. Then, accountability. Second, if they they are not themselves participating, but their representatives are there. अब representatives जो हैं ये भी अपना काम सही से करें, then they need to be held accountable कि जो उनके grievances हैं, उनकी problems हैं, उनकी issues हैं, benefits हैं, justice हैं, and all the dimension that they have um, uh, agreed in constitution, उन dimension पे ये representatives if they are working. So accountability dimension is there. Then ultimately the protection of fundamental right. फिर ये है कि if people are living together, so किसी भी तरह का discrimination ये ना हो. Then फिर to enjoy a meaningful life, उनके भी कुछ fundamental rights हैं that they want to enjoy. So ये fundamental rights हैं, ये भी protected होने चाहिए. And democracy एक नया तरीका है that is working on all these three issues. Thinkers like G.S. Mill and Alexis de Tocqueville, they praise democracy for promoting individual liberty and societal progress, but they also warn of the tyranny of the majority. Now, the meanings and essence of democracy. So, democracy refers to a system of government where the ultimate power, ultimate decision making power, it lies with the people. The reins of this horse or reins of this cart, it is held by people. Derived from the Greek word demos, which means people, and kratos means power, democracy literally means rule by the people. So it is based on the idea of political equality where every citizen has equal rights and participation in the decision making process. At its core, democracy embodies two crucial ideas. First, self rule, that no other is going to govern themselves, rule themselves. People are going to govern themselves either directly or indirectly. Second embodiment of crucial idea is about protection of individual rights and freedom. Democracy secures fundamental rights which are essential for a meaningful life. So rights such as freedom of speech, association of religion, they are protected. Now, the fundamental features of democracy. First, popular sovereignty, that people are the supreme authority and no other, no internal or external factor is influencing this rule making. Then another feature is periodic free and fair election. Third, rule of law, that if people have come together, then something should be there that govern themselves, a kind of a rule book, a code that is equally applicable to all. This code is known as rule of law. So here, all citizens, including the rulers, they are bound by the law. Next is pluralism and political competition. So pluralism means when the society is diverse, when there are different elements that stretch both vertically and horizontally across various section, religious religious sectors, linguistic divergence, cultural and ethnic identities. So all such diversity can be clubbed as pluralism. Now in democracy, when all there are different sections, there are diverse voices, all of them they need political space. So this leads to creation of multiple political parties addressing the issues of different voices. So in short, democracy provides space for these political parties, ideologies, and opinions to coexist. Then the next element, protection of civil liberties. Civil liberties or fundamental rights, human rights, these are protected. Rights such as freedom of expression, religion, and association, it is guaranteed. And finally, accountability and transparency. that elected representative, elected government, they remain answerable to people. Now let's have a look at major thinkers, scholars, and their contributions. So, first, John Locke, by his work Two Treatises of Government, he advocated the idea of popular consent. Popular consent is similar to people's choices or people's voices, whichever way we want to see it. In simple, popular consent can be जो लोग चाहते हैं. Then he advocated the idea of social contract, that when people are existing, there is a need for a contract and agreement by which they agree to coexist. So such social contract, whether it is a rule of law, a moral code of conduct, whichever kind of agreement is that, but it will be there. And finally, natural rights. So all these three elements, they are addressed, they are taken in by the idea of democracy. And then democracy for Locke is the mechanism to protect life, liberty, and property. Now, the views of J.S. Mill on liberty: he supported individual freedoms within democracy. He warned against the tyranny of majority in a representative system. So, tyranny means the oppressive rule, the upper hand uh, that is frequently taken in by the majority population in in diverse countries. सो डाइवर्स कंट्रीज में यूजुअली होता है कि वन सेक्शन इट इज़ न्यूमेरिकल मेजॉरिटी. हमारे इंडिया में भी देख सकते हैं, तो रिलीजियसली हिंदूज आर मेजॉरिटी, बट हिंदूज आर नॉट दी ओनली वन हु आर लिविंग हियर. यहाँ पे डाइवर्सिटी में देख सकते हैं तो रिलीजियस माइनॉरिटीज़ भी हैं, ट्राइबल पीपल भी हैं. फिर उसके बाद जो दे आर डाइवर्सिटी एंड डिफरेंसेस अक्रॉस लेंथ एंड ब्रेड. अगर यही उस सेक्शनैलिटी की बात करें तो द ब्राह्मण्स ऑफ वेस्ट बंगाल, they will have a lot of difference with the Brahmins of Uttar Pradesh. So these differences, these horizontal and vertical differences are there. फिर उसके अलावा बात करते हैं कि बहुत सारे फॉरेन एलिमेंट्स हैं जो medieval period में एंड colonial period में which they got settled here. So वो भी लोग हैं, वो भी minority voices हैं. So इतने सारे लोग यहाँ पे रहते हैं. बट डेमोक्रेसी की बात करते हैं, सो ये न्यूमेरिकल मेजॉरिटी है. इफ टाइम कम्स एंड सीइंग द अपॉर्चुनिटी, इट कैन टेक द अपर हैंड, एंड दिस लीड्स टू ऑपरेशन ऑफ दीज minorities, these different sections of people. Then Mill favored proportional representation. This is to ensure minority voices are heard. So proportional representation means representation of people, it is proportional to their population. So ये जो डाइवर्स सेक्शंस होते हैं, डाइवर्स सोसाइटीज़ होती हैं, उनमें ये इट कम्स हैंडी. क्योंकि जैसे इंडिया में वी हैव फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट सिस्टम FPTP, विच मीन्स अगर 3 कंटेंडर्स हैं और तीनों में से जिसके भी हाईएस्ट वोट आएंगे, दैट विल बी डिक्लेयर्ड अ विक्टर. नाउ अगर इनमें डिफरेंसेस जो है इवन 1 वोट का है, सो लेट्स से इस ये पर्सन है, ही गॉट 115 वोट्स एंड ये जो है 114, एंड देन ये वाला जो 130. अब ये वाला जो है ये विक्टर डिक्लेयर हो जाएगा. लेकिन ये जो है इनको भी तो बहुत सारे लोग जो है इन पसंद कर रहे हैं, दे आर रिप्रेजेंटिंग मैनी वॉइसेस. बट हमारे सिस्टम में क्योंकि ये उस टाइम के लिए इंडिपेंडेंट, जब इंडिया इंडिपेंडेंट हुआ उस वक्त के लिए सही था, बिकॉज पॉपुलेशन वाज लार्जली इलिटरेट. बट अभी जब हम काफ़ी ज़्यादा एजुकेटेड हो चुके हैं एंड बहुत सारे अलग अलग लैंडस्केप में वी आर क्रूजिंग, ऐसे में ये जो फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट है, दिस कैन गिव वे टू प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन. ऐसे में क्या होगा, सेम अगर PR सिस्टम हो अरे यहाँ पे, देन जो डिफरेंट वॉइसेस हैं, इन तीनों को जितने भी वोट्स मिले हैं उसके बेसिस पे उनको असेंबली के अंदर या लेजिस्लेटर के अंदर उनको सीट मिलेगी. सो दिस व्यू वॉज शेयर्ड बाय J.S. Mill that he favored proportional representation. Now, the opinion of John Jacques Rousseau and his work, The Social Contract. So, he emphasized general will. The general will, he meant collective good over individual interests. So, this general will can be equated with popular will, or let's say common will. So, if people have agreed for a certain thing, then that collective decision would be prioritized over individual interests. And he advocated for direct democracy where citizenship or citizens actively participate in democracy. Now, Abraham Lincoln, who famously phrased this the concept of democracy as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, in the words of Robert A. Dahl, he preferred the term polyarchy for modern representative democracy. So polyarchy means आज के टाइम में it is not only the people who are ruling. यहाँ पे बहुत सारे interest जो हैं, a cross section, a web of interest collectively rule the modern landscape. So वो जो interest हैं, like multinational corporations हैं, then जो डिफरेंट वॉइसेस हैं पीपल हैं वो है, जितने भी शेड्स ऑफ ओपिनियन हैं वो है, इंटेलेक्चुअल्स हैं, एनजीओज हैं, दैन इंटरनेशनल ऑब्लिगेशंस हैं, फिर द ग्लोबल डायमेंशन इट इज़ ऑल्सो देयर. सो यहाँ पे बहुत सारे लोग जो हैं या बहुत सारे जो क्रॉस सेक्शनल इंटरेस्ट हैं उन सबको पोलियाकी कहा गया. Then he emphasized competition, participation, and pluralism in democratic society. Now, in the words of Amartya Sen, he linked democracy to economic and social development. And he argued that democracy enhances people's capability because most of the philosophy of Amartya Sen, it revolved around developing capabilities of people. So it is obvious that he would have argued for in support of democracy because it enhances people's capabilities, people's potential, and it reduces famines and large scale social failures. Now, the types of democracy. First, direct democracy, where citizens directly participate in lawmaking procedure. This form of direct democracy was practiced in ancient Athens and in modern referenda system in many Scandinavian countries such as Switzerland. And this this form of democracy, it is difficult to implement in large and complex society because to make different people make all these people sit together is administratively infeasible, unfeasible. इतने सारे लोग जो हैं एक साथ कैसे बैठ के डिसाइड कर पाएंगे, एंड दैट टू ऑन कॉम्प्लेक्स इश्यूज, क्योंकि लार्ज सोसाइटी है तो इश्यूज भी कॉम्प्लेक्स हैं, फिर उसमें भी द डिसीजन मेकिंग, द डेलिब्रेशन, इट कैन स्ट्रेच मैनी डेज और मंथ्स. सो फिर इतने सारे लोग जो हैं वो अवेलेबल भी नहीं है. सो इट्स अबाउट द फिजिबिलिटी इशू, क्योंकि लार्ज सोसाइटी में, कॉम्प्लेक्स सोसाइटी में this form of democracy is not possible. Then the other type is representative democracy, where people elect a representative. So this feasibility, it provided for the inclusion of representative, क्योंकि जो possible factors हैं वो सेम है. इतने सारे लोग एक साथ एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली बैठ के कॉम्प्लेक्स इशू पे डेलिब्रेट, डिस्कस, डिबेट, वो सब करना पॉसिबल नहीं है. सो बेस्ट वे दैट elect a representative who would debate, discuss, deliberate, and legislate on their behalf. And most modern states like India, USA, UK follow this model. Third type, liberal democracy. It combines majority rule with the protection of individual rights and minority interests. So it is midway between majority rule and direct democracy. And this ensures constitutionalism, which means constitution it would be held supreme, rule of law would be advocated, would be practiced, and constitutionalism or in rule of law तभी हो पाएगा when the judiciary is independent and separation of powers are there. Separation of powers means different organs of government है, both horizontally and vertically, they are separated. Legislature, executive and judiciary, ये तीनों जो हैं ये separated है. Then फिर जितने भी vertical devolution of power हैं, जो सेंट्रल लेवल है, स्टेट लेवल है एंड देन लोकल लेवल, उनके बीच में भी जो पावर जो है इट इज़ सेपरेटेड. सो यही एक मैकेनिज्म है जिसके दिस फेडरल मैकेनिज्म बाय विच constitutionalism or rule of law can be ensured. And the fourth type is participatory and deliberative democracy. So, as the name suggests, it is about participation and deliberation, which encourages active civic participation beyond voting. And this can take form in smaller groups. So, even if the population is large or जो larger issues हैं उन पे the whole population cannot come together, but still जो छोटे issues हैं, जो localized issues हैं उन पे जो local populations हैं they can actively participate. So ये वाला जो है PRI और ULB जो है पंचायती राज इंस्टीट्यूशन एंड अर्बन लोकल गवर्नमेंट, इनमें ये जो एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन इट इज़ फ्रीक्वेंटली सॉल्व. And here, in the words of Habermas, he emphasized rational public discourse, which is central to a healthy democracy. Rational public discourse means people are actively participating in decision making. Now, democracy in the Indian context. So, India, the world's largest democracy, its features that it has presence of universal adult franchise since 1951, since the promulgation of Constitution. Universal adult franchise means right to vote. Then we have a federal parliamentary system that ensures representation and power sharing, both horizontal and vertical power sharing. Then we have independent judiciary and independent election commissions that safeguards democratic principle. Then we have a diverse society where democracy it accommodates pluralism, different shades of opinion, different voices, different cultures and different identities. Now the challenges we are facing: first, electoral malpractices like vote buying, booth capturing and manipulation. The second challenge, it concerns with caste, religion and money power that influence electoral politics. The next threat is increasing threat of populism and majoritarianism, क्योंकि इंडिया के अंदर जो ज़्यादा पॉपुलेशन जो है मेजर पॉपुलेशन इट इज़ हिंदी पॉपुलेशन. सो यहाँ पे कभी भी ये इट कैन turn from democracy to the majority rule. Then, with the rise of social media, rising fake news, media bias, and decreasing public trust, these are also issues that are grappling the Indian idea of democracy. So, जैसे जो कैम्ब्रिज एनालिटिका स्कैंडल है, फिर उसके बाद जो ट्रॉलिंग मीडिया है, the trolling army that is employed by political party to the attack different opinion. So ये भी एक चीज़ है. फिर political parties, because of the deep pockets, they frequently circulate fake news so as to get more votes. Then media, it also um, works on the whims of a major party, on the likes of a party that is in power. So मीडिया बायस की वजह से भी जो दूसरे ओपिनियन हैं, दूसरी पार्टीज़ हैं, वो सरफेस पे नहीं आ पाती. नाउ लेट्स लुक एट global democratic challenges and contemporary issues. So first global challenge is democratic backsliding, which means democracy is losing its sheen. Democracy is losing its charm. So this erosion of democratic institution in country like Hungary, Turkey, and even the USA, uh, the rise of far right group in many of these European countries. ये सब countries जो हैं which were earlier hallmark of European democratic system, अब इन्हीं कंट्री में हंगरी, पोलैंड, तुर्की, यूएसए, यहाँ पे फार राइट ग्रुप, मेजोरिटेरियन ग्रुप, ये सब जो है वहाँ पे आ रहे हैं, और इसी की वजह से जो डेमोक्रेटिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं दे आर frequently dismantled or frequently halted. So, the rise of authoritarian populist leaders undermining democratic norms. So, जैसे जो एग्जांपल बताया आपको, हंगरी, पोलैंड, तुर्की है, सो यहाँ पे डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प, विक्टर ओबान, एर्दोगन, इन सब की बात करते हैं तो दे आर अथॉरिटेरियन पॉपुलिस्ट लीडर्स, विच मीन्स ये जो हैं दे आर लीडर्स दैट हैव taken that have been elected by people because of their appeal, because of their nationalist appeal. और इसकी वजह से these people they have become authoritarian. सारी पावर जो है they have concentrated in their hand, और ये concentration तभी possible है when they keep undermining various democratic norms, keep dismantling the building of democracy. Now the second challenge is rise of social media. So social media act as both an enabler and a platform for misinformation and manipulation. So the first example, the Arab Spring, the Me Too movements, इनके बारे में जानते हैं आप. Second, misinformation and manipulation, ये social media पे होता ही है. The Cambridge Analytica scandal. Then the third issue is about economic inequality. So the growing wealth gap, it dilutes political equality. क्योंकि अगर corporates जो हैं या few individuals are getting ultra rich, फिर ये है कि सारे जो पावर जो है, इकोनॉमिक पावर उन्हीं के हाथ में, एंड इकोनॉमिक पावर ही है जो मैटर करती है. फिर जो जितने भी डेमोक्रेटिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं वो फिर they will toe the line, or they will speak the narrative that is shared by those in power. And finally, climate change and global issues. So democracy, they struggle to act quickly on many challenges that need immediate actions. क्योंकि democracy, it is about deliberation, it is about discussion, debate. So ऐसे में जो भी challenges होते हैं जिनमें इमीडिएट डिसीजंस चाहिए, फर्स्ट ये प्रॉब्लम है. फिर सेकंड, द शॉर्ट टर्म इलेक्टोरल साइकिल. और यहाँ पे इशू ये है कि कुछ जो चैलेंजेस हैं लाइक एनवायरमेंटल क्राइसिस, क्लाइमेट चेंज, अब इन पे जो वर्क जो है वो होगा लॉन्ग जेस्टेशन का, कि आज उन पे आप इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, आज डिसीजन लेंगे, आज टाइम एंड मनी जो है इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, और उनके फ्रूट्स जो हैं, उनका जो रिजल्ट है, आउटकम्स जो हैं, दे विल अपीयर आफ्टर सर्टेन टाइम. लेकिन शॉर्ट टर्म इलेक्ट्रल साइकिल है, 4-5 साल के लिए है इन ग्लोबली. तो ऐसे में फिर दे डू नॉट इन्वेस्ट देयर टाइम इन सच प्रेसिंग इश्यूज. सो ये भी डेमोक्रेसी का इशू है. सो एनीवे, दिस इज़ इट. नेक्स्ट वीडियो में ह्यूमन राइट्स से स्टार्ट करते हैं. Thank you very much, and subscribe the channel.